Is this even?
Well, having just got hammered in a recent mayoral election, I mean hammered and obliterated. I think I can speak from experience. Um, See, so our campaign was right during COVID. I mean, it was right smack dab. The entire campaign was during COVID, including when the government was like completely shut down there in March and April. And everything was completely shut down, except the grocery stores and in the hospitals if you were suffering from COVID. So now though, and I haven't been following the state rep campaigns or the the campaign season that closely at all, but
That's interesting.
it
Don't
it
say that
seems
on the first episode of our political
well.
podcast.
Well, I know enough about both people, and I've met with Bruce Chester, but I know enough. I'm kind of burnt out on local politics, to be honest with you. But here's my take on the whole thing. I mean, I think at this point, I don't see, and I don't know if Zlotnick. I'm hearing from you that Zlotnick either has refused to debate or hasn't responded as to whether or not he wants to. But I don't see any reason why there shouldn't be at least one or two debates, maybe even in person. But never mind in person. But why not
Remotely.
virtually?
It's part of the problem. Part of the this gets to often, if I take issue in a particular campaign, it seems like I feel like more and more over my adult life that it has to do not with political ideology. It has less to do with policy issues or projects or things that are germane to the campaign, as far as giving voters options of I want to vote for this person because of XYZ, but it's more about a process, right? And or the lack of adherence to it, and that's kind of how I feel about this right now. Is
I'm
that
not following you.
well? So Bruce Chester, the newbie, not the incumbent candidate, um, publicly offered a series of debates, format, theme, so forth, venue, and so forth, and asked for feedback by a certain date from the incumbent candidate, John Zlotnick, and never received a response. In fact, to date, I checked into it, he hasn't received a response, period. So as far as we know right now, there will be no forums, there will be no debate, there will be no town hall style meetings for this campaign. I just, as an American, and I happen to be more liberal minded in most of my political ideology, that feels like a breakdown of the process. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. I have a problem when we don't have an open and transparent and frankly interesting and vibrant campaign cycle.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's so much part of the process, but I know I get what you're saying. It just seems like an obvious reality that the two candidates or three candidates or four, however many you have, in this case two, would certainly get together on a stage or remotely in this day and age with the COVID still out there and meet about the issues. Um, and the fact that that's not happening is very curious to me. It's just curious to me. And I'm not sure. Do you know whether or not the last state rep election, I think it was Zlotnick and Ed Gravel, did they have a debate? I
They
don't
did.
even recall.
I believe they might have even had two. I attended one of them. Um, they're interesting. It was like, I've often said this. It was like, you're a fan of Monty Python, right? Many
Yeah.
people listen. It's like the incontinence marathon, right? There's a lot of people running, but they're always going off into the woods, and the race is never finished. And no one's really in the lead or nothing like that, for any amount of time. It was like it was, forgive me because it sounds like I'm putting the candidates down, but it was not, it was not spirited and what's the word I'm looking for? It just wasn't a competent debate style. Also, I feel like this is kind of getting off topic. We got to bring this back to unenrolled phenomenon in a minute, but I really feel like in the time that I've lived in this region, I've never seen like an out and out political debate like I did back where I
Right.
lived previously. They're usually really just, for lack of a better term, a forum type of situation, highly stylized, highly formatted. They don't really allow the candidates to really, and I'm not saying I want to see a hockey fight, but I want to get a sense for the well, I mean, debating in and of itself was an art form that feels like a lost art, sort of like
Mm-hmm.
handwriting,
Yeah.
signature. Um, and we just aren't seeing that. You know what I mean? And so that's an added problem. I feel like with the number of unenrolled people at the local level, that the whole process should be a lot more robust.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. And I think we're going to get back on the topic of the unenrolled voter. And uh, part of the problem I see of that, of having the two-party system, the two monopolistic political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, is that you're getting this phenomenon where 60% of the people, roughly, in Massachusetts are gravitating towards some no man's land, some some no man's land where they don't have an identity. So, and that's one of the problems I have with the terminology. I mean, just by calling them the unenrolled, it automatically, not only do they not do these this vast group of people not have an identity, it's a negative identity. In other words, unenrolled, it gives the impression that the people are just scofflaws. Like, for instance, they just didn't get around to enrolling in one of the parties that they're supposed to belong in, and it doesn't even give validity to having a third opinion, or a third ideology of how things could work. Um,
Or even a
so
fourth or fifth, or
it's just so
like
so 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 what the people do.
yeah,
So
not
so
just
so when it comes down to getting into the polling booths, they've got to pick a side. They got to pick, because let's face it. I mean, especially in this contentious day and age we're in, where there's no more four parties. I mean, I think you might be old enough. I think I'm older than you. You might be old enough to remember when there were basically four parties. They were the liberal. They were the liberal Democrats, the conservative Democrats, the liberal Republicans, and the conservative Republicans. Now it's just Republican and Democrat. There's no middle ground. It's it's
well
it's a
with
zero sum game.
an even more even at the local level, an even more radicalized agenda. Here's another problem that I have with the situation, and that is that we're they'll often say to candidates, and both parties do this. Here's the platform, right? And if a potential candidate for a district or a state or what have you, whatever the case, um, if they say, well, I agree with this plank and this plank and this plank, this other stuff, there's some nuance in here for me, right? This is the potential candidate saying this. They're basically told, well, we didn't ask you what you like and don't like. If you're going to be a candidate, if we're going to back you with money and other resources, here's the platform. You know what I mean? It's like you either buy into the brand, or
Yeah.
it's the ultimate in corporatization of a political process.
I'm
That's
not sure. I'm not sure that it wasn't always like that, though. Um, you had to adopt the platform of the political party always, I think. But when it comes down, and that's the candidate, okay. But when you're talking about the voter would take in the olden days, and I'm not afraid of admitting that I'm pushing 60. Um, a voter would say, one or two issues are really important to me, so that's why I'm going to vote for this guy or that gal, right? And now it seems to me, and I've done some research on it. It seems that we've reached this situation in our country that it's all or nothing. If you like a particular candidate or a particular party, you agree with everything they stand for. So what you were saying about the platform, the typical voter now is, especially the one that identifies as either a Democrat or Republican, they adopt the entire platform, every single part of it. Whereas
yeah,
before they never did that. So that what that does is what it's done is it's made the two parties that much more diverse and divided. and there's no middle ground at all anymore. I don't know if there's any middle ground anymore. It seems like there isn't. And now it's reaching the local level.